Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici. Welcome, my friends. My name is Vincenzo, and welcome to my channel, Fountain Pen Therapy. Well, as I sit here, it's early January. I'm still enjoying my holidays. I will be back at the office sometime in a couple of days. I've completed all my annual reviews. I hope you've all enjoyed them. And I said to myself, is there one more that I should do? And one that I had planned to do, and I think it's going to be my last one, if you will, is kind of a retrospective of 2023, but not by focusing on the pens and only the pens, but rather just highlights of the year 2023 in terms of relating to my own experiences, my fountain pen collection, and my adventure that I started, which is this YouTube channel. And as I sit here and have my cappuccino, I said to myself, well, what is it that marked the year? What were your highlights? Is there any tidbits that you'd like to share with your viewers? And here they are. I think there's a couple of things. First of all, 2023 for me is special because that's the year I started my YouTube channel, and we'll get to that in a second. But in terms of the fountain pen collection and etc., there's a couple of categories that I want to look at. First of all, what is it with pens themselves that has kind of highlighted 2023? Have we seen any trends? Secondly, is there any pen in particular that I personally discovered for the first time? It may not be the Grail pen of the world, may not be the best pen of the world, but did I run into something that kind of caught my fancy? Then there are paper products. Now, I've come up with two very comprehensive reviews where I've reviewed over 100 notebooks. And I think there's a couple of notebooks that have marked that I discovered, if you will, and that I think will form part of my everyday experience in 2024 that I'd like to share with you as well. Then there are pen materials. What materials that did the community run into in 2023, or that I discovered in 2023 that I think caught my fancy? We'll take a look at that. Then there are nibs, and there's many nibs. Without nibs, there is no pen. Were there any nibs that I discovered for the first time, or that I realized existed and that will form part of my everyday writing in 2024. Now, that kind of covers it along with inks. What about inks? Are there any inks that kind of, gave me more pleasure or more fountain pen therapy than others? That's essentially some of the categories that I'd like to share with you in this final episode. And so without further ado, we'll go to my overhead camera and start the retrospective, as they say. We need pens, we need nibs, but we need ink, correct? So here I think the four major ink companies or ink makers that kind of caught my fancy in 2023. The first one is Dominant Industry. I've reviewed several of these inks. I think I've got practically all of their inks. They fascinate me. The bottle is very interesting. Their inks are great. So Dominant Industry is the first company that I'd like to highlight. The second one that's caught my fancy is Wearingeul. Wearingeul has come up with some very very nice products: sheen inks, shading inks, shimmering inks, standard inks. They've got it all, and I find their inks got that punch, that extra punch. Good product, recommended. That's number 2 for 2023. The third company is a Canadian company, and as a Canadian, I'm very proud to see Ferris Wheel Press get all the press that they've been getting. They have a great product, they have motifs, they have storylines, great marketing, great packaging. Their inks are fabulous. So congratulations, Ferris Wheel Press, you're my number 3. But there's one thing that I want Ferris Wheel Press to improve, and that is their bottles. Your bottles are absolutely not a go-go, and they're discouraging me from buying any more because they're not supposed to be perfume bottles, guys. They're supposed to be, bottles that you can ink your pens with. So if there's one thing you have to work on, not the rest, is your ink bottles. I'm sure there's a way that you can compromise and find the perfect solution. And I think in 2024, you probably will do it. So that's the number 3. And my favorite, I think, of all this year is Van Diemen's. Australian company. This company has come up with numerous numbers of collections. I have them all. I really recommend them. I think they're still, if you do fountain pen therapy, you still get a 10% discount with Van Diemen's, but I'm not sure. But I'm not even sure that was early on, and frankly, you could give it a try. If it works, it works. But that's not why I'm highlighting them. They just make fabulous inks. They too have funny names and great shimmering inks, standard inks, sheening inks. Van Diemen's is a number 4, or the 4th one out of the 4. So those are the 4 companies, and I think what I'd like to do is share with you. When it comes to ink products, the other thing that I'd like to mention as well is when we do our swatching, how do we keep track of all our inks? Well, the first product that I was using, that I keep using, is this Good Ink Impressions on Etsy. You can find these on Etsy. It's a swatch book where, as you can see, you enter the name of your ink, and then you swatch, and you swatch down the line. It's a beautiful product. It's Tomoe River paper, so it really brings out the best in all the inks. So Good Impressions, you can get, I have all kinds of colors. For example, let me just go back here, and I'll show you where all my inks are. As you could see, I have all the colors. So this one kind of brings all the orange, the reds, the greens. I have a different color for different inks, and I keep all my ink swatches in that Good Impressions. That's one that I discovered and I think is very, very useful, and it's Tomoe River paper. The next one is the Waringal. I mentioned their inks. Well, they came up with some fascinating swatch products. This is their swatch book, which I think is very, very nice. It's got kind of a bottle. I don't know if you could see that. My camera caught. There we go. You see it's got a little bottle, and you swatch the inside of that bottle. You name the ink, and the rest is history. Very, very nice product. There's very thick paper. And surprisingly enough, it does give justice to the inks. So I think it beats those coloring, or I forget what they're called, but those kind of cardboard little cards where it doesn't bring out the best in the inks. You can either buy the swatch book, or you could buy their Waringal cards, which are very similar, as you can tell. I don't know if the camera picks it up. There we go. You see there's the little bottle. You swatch the little bottle. It's got lines to mark your inks, and you can keep track of your inks this way in these little cards. So when it came to ink products, I think when it comes to ink products, those are the 2 additional products that I did want to mention to you as having been one of my highlights for 2023. There you have it. Then there's the paper products. I mean, I've mentioned it already. I've got comprehensive guides, but during my journey, I did a lot of work to put all that together. I can tell you, folks, I enjoyed it. And it got me to discover some. Now, we know Tomoe River, we know Rhodia, we know Cosmic Air, we know all the major products that have kind of, taken us by storm and that continue to. But there are 4 products that or 4 products in terms of paper that I'd like you to take a look at. And in terms of journals per se, and the use of these journals in everyday journaling and agendas and calendars, etc., I've got 2 other products that I'd like to share with you as well. So without further ado, we'll go to my overhead camera and we'll take a closer look at those. Okay, let's look at the category of paper products that kind of caught my imagination. The first one is this Aerofol paper. I didn't know that it existed, frankly. And by watching, Matthew on Wet Pens, I think he does some wonderful work in terms of reviewing inks. And I kept seeing that he kept doing a swatch on this Aerofol paper. And I said, what is this Aerofol? So I went on Amazon and I found both notebooks and loose leaf. Beautiful product. So Aerofol is the first one that's kind of I discovered, and that's kind of taken me by storm, if you will. The second one is this obscure product that I'm not even sure people know exists, but it's Logical Prime. It's a Japanese product, and I got to tell you, the The paper is just top notch. Top notch. I'm using this notebook to mark down all my ideas. This is where all the ideas for my best of are all jotted down. It's kind of my go-to YouTube kind of agenda. Keep track of where my videos are, my scheduling, my ideas, notes for my videos. So I've been using this notebook, and I find it very, very nice, that I would definitely recommend, and that I discovered in 2023. The other product, and this thanks to Doodlebud, is the Muji product. My only comment on Muji is that they have a Canadian site, and I think they're out of Vancouver. They have a big store, and they deliver everywhere except Quebec. So I live in Montreal, and I can't get these products. It's ridiculous. I don't understand why. Is it something about our province that Muji doesn't like? I wish they would rethink their strategies. Definitely. So I'm stuck buying these products on other sites where they put a premium on the price. So instead of paying $5 for this thing, I end up paying maybe double the price, which is unfortunate, because it's a paper that I discovered. It's a recycled paper that, it is so performance-wise top notch, and price-wise, my God, I can understand why Doodlebud says, I use this for my everyday, swatching, or you want to fool around with a pen, see where it stands, and don't want to waste, expensive Tomeo River paper. Well, this is an alternative. So Muji, thank you very much. Hopefully you will be able to deliver in my province. Stay tuned. And lastly, I discovered this Yamamoto bank paper. Wow. The first time I inked this paper and I put down some swatches, just fascinated by this product. So it's these four products are the ones that have kind of marked my year in terms of paper products, and there's tons more, but these are the ones I wanted to highlight for you. That's in the paper product category. In terms of journals per se and what we use for our everyday business, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, I use, or have been using over the years, these two products, essentially these two products, which are my Obonichi Teco and my Day Free. The Obonichi Teco is a 1 page per day sort of a journal agenda. It has also weeks and months. It's got all my calendars there. Every month is marked by a different color. And if I need something to add to that, because I need to make notes, up for a given day, but not 1 page per day, so it's a day-free journal, if you will. I use this Obonichi Teco day-free journal. Those have been my two go-to every day at the office journals that I've been using over the years. And in doing the reviews, the comprehensive guides, I discovered two products that I think I'm going to be using in 2024, and that I think are beautiful products. First of all, to replace the Obonichi day for day calendar, if you will, is this Kim board that I bought on AliExpress. Take a look at this. It's exactly the same as Obonichi, except Obonichi here in Canada, get it delivered or buy it on Amazon, it costs me anywhere between $80 and $95 for one book. Whereas I picked this up for $25 on AliExpress. It's going to do the same trick. I'm really looking forward to using it. The paper appears to be just perfect, and hopefully it'll work out. So that's going to be my go-to date for day calendar or journal, if you will. And my day free is going to be this notebook from Sterling, I think a Canadian company. Sterling, you know what? I bought this at $25 instead of $40 that the Obonichi costs. Great product so far. Got to tell you, it's got everything I need. It's even got Tomeo River paper. So these are going to be my two go-to products for 2024 that I discovered in 2023. There you go. That's the paper products. So we got paper, we got ink, we got pens. And you can have all the beautiful pens, the beautiful materials in the world. If you don't have nibs, then you don't have a pen. Now, we all know the sailors of this world. We know the Pelicans. We know the Mont Blancs. We know the Yowo, the Bach. And we've all had good and bad experiences with all of these. But there are two standard nib companies or brands that caught my fancy that I'd like to share with you. And there's also specialized nibs, dip pens more particularly, that I also would like to share with you. So stay tuned. Two nibs that I think are brand nibs that I've discovered, and that I've discovered more importantly that I enjoy tremendously are these. The first one is the Schmidt nibs. I mean, I knew they were there. I had pens that had Schmidt nibs, and I always enjoyed them. But it's in buying this Benu Euphoria with a broad nib that I really discovered how these nibs really write. They've got this special feedback, especially in the fine and medium, which is tantalizing. You could feel the pen writing, but at the same time, it's wet and constant. So these nibs, hats off. I mean, if I see a pen that has a Schmidt nib, I'm encouraged to buy that pen if the pen suits my fancy. So that's the one nib I've discovered. And, I've discovered they're in medium. There's the broad. There's number 6 size nibs or the number 5 size nibs. They're nice and small and cute, but man, can these things write. Really, really, really nice. So there you have it. Schmidt nibs, something I discovered in 2023. The other go-to nib that I knew existed before 2023 but I really took off, at least in my daily writing, are these Stipula steel stubs. Now, what's particular about these stubs is that they're not a 1.1, they're not a 1.5, they're, I think, a 0.9 stub. So it gives you a finer line, but it gives you at the same time that line variation, which is just it gives you a line that's as thick as broad, perhaps, but gives you the line variation, at least that I look for in my, day-to-day writing. These Stipula nibs I purchased at Stilografica Corsani in Rome, I believe. They have a website. They sell pens. They sell all kinds of products. And I had bought one Stipula pen from them that came with this nib, and then wrote an email to them and asked if they would sell me nibs. And they said, sure, how many do you want? And the rest is history. Every 2 or 3 months I order 5 or 6, and I kind of replace nibs in my pens where I want to. For example, this Christopher 14 from London Pen Company, Primary Manipulation 4, came with a Yowo or a Bach, and decided I replaced it, and it was on sale. So I couldn't choose the nib. I think it was a fine nib, and I'm not going to write with a fine nib too often. So I said to myself, you know what? I'll replace the nib with the Stipula, and wow, what a writer. So if anybody's interested in trying that, please do. Stilografica Corsani. You can look them up. Maybe if I remember, I'll try to put that in the description of this video. So there you have it. Those are I think the two standard nibs that have caught my fancy in 2023. In terms of specialized nibs, I have two. And, I'm not a graphic artist. I'm not an artist at all. But I do swatch my inks. And here are the products that I often use. This is the Kekimori nib, which is a beautiful product because when you dip this, it's a dip pen. When you dip it in the ink, it captures quite a bit of ink in that kind of a barrel. It writes a nice line. It washes out really quickly. So that's been a product that I've discovered in 2023 that I think is a nice addition to what I do with the swatching. And my favorite pen or nib that I use for my swatching is these folded pens. They come in different sizes. This is the ideal size that I find for my swatching. I dip that into the ink. I do a swatch, and it mimics the best an actual nib as opposed to a Q-tip or a paintbrush. So that's the folded nibs. Now, I did purchase these from Toronto Pen Company, but I noticed that on their website lately they haven't been making these nibs anymore. They're asking to, kind of took a sabbatical, if you will, but you can find these folded nibs on other sites. You just have to Google folded nibs, and I'm sure you'll find a site where you can find them. But again, there you have it. Those are the two specialized nibs that I use, or that I caught my fancy for 2023. Another category is pen materials. Now, the hobby, or the fountain pen community, or the manufacturers kind of evolve, and the use of different materials come up on almost every year. And I think three materials have dominated my experience, and I think have dominated the industry this year in 2023, or at least my experience. At least there's been two that probably dominated the whole industry, and everybody would agree with, but there's a third that's more personal, if you will. So those three materials I'd like to review with you, and please stay tuned. The first one are the metal pens that have come out of, let me just draw back a little bit here so you can take a look at just what I have on the table. I mean, I think 2023 has been the year of the Chinese pens and the Chinese metal pens. Never did I think that I would enjoy metal pens. I had a few in my collection. They were a disaster. I felt they were too heavy. The sections were slippery. Just never used them. They were in my drawers, and they were pretty, but I would never use them. But I got to tell you, 2023 marked my year. These Chinese pens, just a sampling. You've got all the companies I think represented here. You've got the Asvine, you've got Jinhao, you've got Ongdian, you've got Majon, and you know what? I've discovered them, and I suddenly enjoy metal pens, and I will not hesitate to purchase one. And I think the key was for Chinese is that the quality of these pens and the quality of the nibs have made all the difference. So, if you want to add the Chinese nibs to nibs that kind of shocked the world and continue to impress me, perhaps those Chinese nibs should make the list as well. But there you have it. I think that the metal pen has marked 2023. The two other categories that I think marked, anyway, my pen experience are the following. First of all, Ultem. Now, Ultem has existed for quite a while, and I've seen pens, but they were all too expensive. And I finally got my hands on, affordable Ultem product or pens, and I've done a video on my very modest collection, and it's led by Gravitas and the Pocket Pen Dropper, which is a beautiful, beautiful pen. And you know what? I enjoy this product. So that's kind of, in terms of products that have kind of marked the year, the Ultem is one of them. The other category, of course, is the primary manipulation. Let me just add to it the Christopher 14. Here we go. I think primary manipulation did mark 2023. Jonathan Brooks came out with this beautiful colored swirl resin where every pen is different. A lot of companies, pen manufacturers have been using it. And I think it launched Navalor, if you will, and taken them. Now all of a sudden they've stepped up their game. This is one from London, the two London pen companies that I have. And this is from a Galen Leather pen that I purchased on their site. I have this Conklin, which is not, I think Jonathan Brooks' primary manipulation, but it is a form of the same. In other words, swirled, colored resin that's kind of given me pleasure with Conklin, because I've got to tell you, I'd lost kind of interest in Conklin, but because of this pen, it kind of resurrected my interest for, and this of course is the All-American, the design, my favorite Conklin pen, and there you have it. So these colored resins, I think I've taken us all by storm, and I really enjoy them. And I got to tell you, if I find them at a reasonable price, I will continue to purchase them. I enjoy them fully. So there you have the pen materials that have marked 2023 for me. Now, the category of pens. I'm not going to go over all of the pens that I think were the best pens of the year, or in my collection, or in my writing experiences per se. They're, the genuine ones that I reviewed already. But there's a couple of tidbits that I did want to add that gave me an enormous amount of pleasure, and that I'd like to share with you. And here they are. I think the next general category that I'd like to review with you touches the pen itself. Now, I've reviewed all the pens, the best of, the Chinese, the Indian pens, the Italian pens, the pen of the year, the pocket pens, etc. But that's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at, and you say, well, when I look back at 2023, what is it that comes to my mind right away in terms of what did I discover? What kind of what product was out there that kind of caught my fancy? Not because of the price, not because of its extremely beautiful qualities, but there's something about them that kind of intrigued me, and that to this day is keeping me interested. Well, the first category I've got to tell you is, just generally speaking, is the Chinese pens. I mean, Chinese pens, again, I'll repeat, and I'll make this very quick, have taken us all by storm. All of these companies, the Hongdians, the Jinaos, the Wingsung, the Asvine, the Majon, have produced some very, very nice products in 2023. They have some interesting nibs, finally, that have made the difference. They've gone away from just strictly metal pens. They have resins now. They're innovating constantly. Their designs, especially with Hongdian, are more and more unique. So Chinese pens, I think, did catch us by storm in 2023. The next category of or fun highlights is the famous skeleton pen. I think the skeleton pens have caught our fancy as well, and thank you to the Chinese for having done that. For now we have skeleton pens at affordable prices. So that's the second category I'd like to point out. The next thing is just a couple of pens that I want to share with you that just kind of just caught me, and it's wow, and it kind of gave me this little bit of a wow factor, some of which I'm sure you guys will say, what are you talking about? But that's my subjective. First of all, pocket pens. I now have a collection of pocket pens, and when I see an interesting pocket pen, I'm buying it. I find they're fascinating. I use these with an A6 journal. They're next to me at all times, or when I'm watching television or watching YouTube channels or reviews, take notes, quick notes with my A6 journal. I can put these pens in the pen sleeves next to the leather journals without a problem. And you know what? They're really a lot of fun. You can throw these in a bag, not a problem. So pocket pens have kind of caught my fancy in 2023. The Bennu pen. I discovered the Bennu pen. I saw it. I thought they were a little bit ridiculous with all the colors and all the sparkling and all that. Finally took a jump. I bought this one, and it's the first and it won't be the last. Why? Because of those Schmidt nibs have intrigued me. This pen is beautiful. It is now for me a go-to pen. It's in my case almost every week. I love the size of this Euphoria. I know the Talisman is slightly smaller, but Euphoria is a big size pen. So Bennu, wow, thank you very much. I discovered you. You know what? I like this Majon, suppository, or this test tube pen. I think this is a fascinating pen. I'm sorry, some people, go on off of their horses. It's useless. You can't use it. I don't care. I think this is a fun looking pen. It's different. It gives me joy, it makes me happy when I see this pen. That's all I can tell you. And you know what? It's not a bad writer, contrary to what many may think. So this may be on the worst list for some. Well, you know what? It's the fun list for me for 2023. The next thing I discovered in 2023 is the TWSBI Echo. Yes, the TWSBI Echo. I have plenty of TWSBI pens, the higher end ones or the ones that are more expensive, but I never had purchased an Echo. Then I saw this one with this blue and kind of brass, red or rose gold trimmings that I saw really attractive, of $45 or something like that. And I decided to buy it with a stub nib, and wow, I discovered a writing instrument that I should have been using for a while now. A little bit like the Lamy, right? We kind of underestimate it. It's got an ink capacity, which, your ink will last forever in here. This thing is in my pen case every week. It doesn't leave. It never dries. I pick it up. It writes. It's a $45 pen. So if I lose this, crush it or crack it, it's not the end of the world. It's not a Grail pen by all means, but it writes beautifully. It gives me line variation with that stub. It gives me lots of ink, and it's there for me at all time, and it costs me $40. Chapeau Twisby. I discovered the Twisby Echo, folks. And lastly, but not the least, are these two pens. Now, these are two of my friends. These are like bodyguards, because if you hit anybody over the head with these things, I'm sorry, but you're going to be committing murder. They weigh, I don't know how many dozens of grams, and they're ridiculously heavy, okay? But you know what? They gave me so much fun. I reviewed these things, and people were asking, what is that? What is that? What is that? And they, at $20 or whatever it is I purchased these things at, they're just so much fun. I had a lot of fun with these. The big metal pen. It's a no-name big metal pen. It's a complete imitation of the Namiki, or that famous Japanese pen that I will never be able to afford, unfortunately. But you know what? I got it in the red and in the green. I replaced the nibs. In this one, I've got an Opus 1.5 stub, a really wet writer. I have a ball with it. And in this other one, I think I've got a 1.1 stub. No, I got an old Bach cursive italic nib, which gives me really thick lines. You know what? I'm having fun with these things. Yes, they're ridiculous. Yes, they're an imitation. Yes, they won't make the best pen award. But you know what? In terms of fun, a little bit like this thing, they're a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun with them. So I figured I'd share with you the fun I had with this last category. So there you have it. I hope you tolerated my idiosyncrasies and have not been totally shocked. There you have it. Now, last but not least, as they say, 2023 for me has been a very special year because I finally decided that I wanted to set up my own YouTube channel and review pens and share my passion for fountain pen collecting. I must tell you, I don't do this for a living. God forbid. I don't think I would be able to raise enough funds to keep us going. As you know, I'm a professional. I'm a litigation lawyer, so I'm very, very caught up with my profession. And if I can take a couple of hours a week and kind of step away from that, from the office and from the grind, as they say, and enjoy a hobby, and that's fountain pens, for me, it's very, very important. And there's the theme. The theme is fountain pen therapy. And what I mean by therapy is that it gives me a couple of hours of relaxation where I lose myself in this beautiful world of fountain pens. And it all started as a project, Started buying some equipment. My son, who is a little bit of a internet, social media guru, if you will, knows a lot about YouTube and the rest of it. And I said to him, why don't you teach me? The rest was history, and I self-learned and bought a bunch of equipment. I'm not a photographer or videographer for any means, but all this equipment and started experimenting, etc., etc. I have my basement I turned it into a studio essentially. It's got 4 stations where I do all of the video work, all of the all of the collecting, all of the storing, the pens, the inks, the swatching, I'm having a wonderful time, folks. So for me, 2023 represents the first year of my YouTube channel. I think February will be my first anniversary. And, I reached my 1,000 subscribers way back when. I'm even monetizing, God forbid. I can at least buy a Chinese pen every 2 months now. But it certainly doesn't pay the bills. But it's nice to see. And I think the algorithm is not something that I pay particular attention to, although it's always nice. I think I prefer to have some comments from my viewers. When I see views and I see comments that appreciate what I'm doing, that's all it takes, folks, because it means I'm sharing at least with some of you. And having said that, that leads me to my conclusion. And my conclusion is to say grazie molto ragazzi e ragazze. Thank you very, very much. Merci beaucoup à tous à tous vous qui nous ont supportés and let us be what we want to be in this fountain pen community, and that is passionate collectors who share their views and their comments. So thank you very much. Grazie. Merci beaucoup, beaucoup, beaucoup. And you know what? Subscribe. Stay tuned. 2024 is coming with a bang. I've got many things planned for it. So, grazie molto. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.